Last week we compared the GTX 1060 3GB and 6GB models to see what all the fuss was about. In the end, despite most claiming the 3GB model is a lemon, it stood up very well to the 1440p Onslaught and rose up from the ashes as a seriously good $200 option. As a result, one of the most commonly asked questions was which should I buy, the 4GB RX 470 or 3GB GTX 1060, and a good many of you begged me to make that comparison. Not wanting to let you guys down, we got busy benchmarking over the weekend and have managed to put together a rather comprehensive comparison. Right now, both of these graphics cards are retailing for $200 US at major online retailers such as Newegg. Meanwhile, down under, the RX 470 is slightly cheaper at $290, while the 3GB 1060 will set you back $310, so Aussies can expect to pay around 7% more for the GeForce graphics card at present. Of course, the MSRP for the 3GB 1060 is $200 US, and right now it appears to be meeting that suggested retail price. The RX 470 should be $20 cheaper at $180, but for now at least, it's priced to match the cut-down 1060. That said, if pricing does settle for the Radeon, you can expect it to cost around 10% less. For testing, we've picked 22 games to compare these two graphics cards at 1080p and 1440p. To remove any system bottlenecks, our Core i7 test rig has been used, though I will be reproducing this video soon with the results from the Core i3 test system as well. As always, the latest AMD and Nvidia drivers available at the time of testing were used. Well, let's get to it, shall we? There's plenty to get through. But can it play Crysis, I hear you ask? Well, at 1080p, sure. Here the 1060 was 16% faster, averaging 51 FPS, while the 470 was reduced to a still playable 44 FPS. Moving to 1440p saw the margin grow in favour of the 1060, though neither card was particularly impressive here. Mirror's Edge Catalyst was tested using the ultra quality settings, and this allowed the 1060 to deliver 16% more performance at 1080p and 15% more at 1440p. The battle when testing with The Witcher 3 is more closely contested, though the 1060 still enjoys a 9% performance advantage at 1080p with 72 FPS. Moving to 1440p, we see the same 9% margin in favour of the green team. The 1060 was also 9% faster in Star Wars Battlefront at 1080p and 10% faster at 1440p. There was also less of a margin between the average and minimum frame rate on the GeForce card when compared to the RX 470. Tom Clancy's The Division provides us with our first truly competitive results. The 1060 was once again faster, though this time by just a 3% margin at 1080p. Moving to 1440p, the 1060 was just a single frame faster on average, though it did maintain a higher minimum frame rate. Batman Arkham Knight provided some very mixed results. Both GPUs provided a 100 FPS average at 1080p, though the minimum frame rate of the RX 470 was slightly higher. Then at 1440p, the 1060 is able to take control with a 5% greater average frame rate and a massive 21% advantage when comparing the minimum frame rate. Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor sees the 1060 return to a double-digit advantage as it was 13% faster at 1080p and 11% faster at 1440p. We know Overwatch plays best with Nvidia hardware, though these results are interesting. While the 1060 was 18% faster when comparing the average frame rate, it was just 5% faster when comparing the minimum frame rate. The results at 1440p are even more extreme. The 1060 was 17% faster on average, while both GPUs produced the same 60 FPS minimum. Things are pretty straightforward in Far Cry Primal. The 1060 was 15% faster at 1080p and 13% faster at 1440p. Assassin's Creed Syndicate is another game that provided straightforward results. The 1060 was 13% faster at 1080p and 11% faster at 1440p. Grand Theft Auto 5 played considerably better on the 1060. It was 24% faster at 1080p and 22% faster at 1440p. That's one of the strongest wins we've seen yet for the green team. The big win in GTA 5 doesn't look as impressive now that we've moved to Arma 3. Here the 1060 was an unbelievable 56% faster at 1080p and 1440p. Surely this has to be down to a driver issue. The GTX 1060 3GB continues its strong run in Dirt Rally. Here it was 21% faster at 1080p and 19% faster at 1440p. The 1060 was 19% faster in Fallout 4 at 1080p, and that margin was extended slightly at 1440p to 22%. Just Cause 3 delivered surprisingly competitive results, though the minimum frame rate of the RX 470 did dip by a greater margin than that of the 1060. Mad Max played well on both products, though the 1060 did allow for 23% more performance at 1080p and 21% more at 1440p. Okay, so the last DirectX 11 title we'll be looking at is Deus Ex: Mankind Divided, and this is a perfect example of how well AMD hardware can perform in a title tailored to their hardware. For the first time, the RX 470 takes the lead, providing 8% more performance at 1080p. The RX 470 was slightly faster at 1440p when comparing the average frame rate, though it was quite a bit slower for the minimum. The first DirectX 12 title we've tested is Rise of the Tomb Raider, and here the GTX 1060 was its usual 20% faster, 21% at 1080p in fact. The margin was reduced to 10% at 1440p however. Doom was tested using the Vulkan API, and this played considerably into AMD's hands. Here the RX 470 was 11% faster at 1080p and 8% faster at 1440p. That said, I should note both GPUs exceeded well over 60 FPS, even at 1440p, using the ultra quality settings with TSS-AA enabled. Ashes of the Singularity was tested using the Extreme preset, and here the 1060 was slightly faster, 2% at 1080p and 5% faster at 1440p. Hitman is a title much like Mankind Divided in the sense that it's tailored for AMD hardware. As a result, the RX 470 was 16% faster at 1080p and 14% faster at 1440p. Wrapping things up is Total War Warhammer. Here the RX 470 was 3% faster at 1080p, while the 1060 was 2% faster at 1440p. Overclocked, the 470 gained a further 5 FPS for a 7% performance boost at 1080p. The 1060 enjoyed an 11% performance boost, taking it from 92 FPS to 102 FPS. Where the 1060 was 21% faster out of the box, it's now 26% faster once overclocked. This time in Doom, the 470 gained 6% more performance through overclocking, while the 1060 became 8% faster. The last game I'm going to be looking at overclocking performance in is Far Cry Primal. Here the 470 gained 9% more performance, while the 1060 improved by a 13% margin. The power consumption of the RX 470 is considerably greater than that of the 1060. Whereas the 1060 pushed total system consumption to 214 watts, the RX 470 went as high as 282 watts. We see similar margins when testing with Mankind Divided. The 1060 configuration consumed just 200 watts, while the RX 470 consumed 277 watts. Once again, similar power consumption margins are seen when testing with Dirt Rally. The 1060 is certainly the more efficient GPU. If you made it this far, give yourself a pat on the back, and if you just skipped here using the included video index, well, give yourself a pat on the back anyway. For those of you time-sensitive folks that missed the meat of the video, here's the summary. Please note I've dropped the Arma 3 results from the overall picture as they were massively skewed in favour of the 1060 and in no way representative of what the other 21 games showed. As you can see, the 3GB 1060 was around 20% faster in games such as GTA 5, Mad Max, Rise of the Tomb Raider and Dirt Rally. Performance was close in Just Cause 3, The Division, Ashes of the Singularity, Batman Arkham Knight and Total War Warhammer. The only games to really favour the RX 470 included Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, Doom using Vulkan and Hitman. Overall, the 1060 was an average 9% faster, 11% if you included Arma 3. Overclocking pushed things further in Nvidia's favour, though the results weren't drastic. What was drastic were the power consumption results, which revealed the 1060 to be the vastly superior product in terms of efficiency. System power consumption dropped by almost 30% with the 1060, while, as we just saw, performance increased by almost 10% on average. Therefore, at the same asking price, the 3GB GTX 1060 is the obvious choice. At their respective MSRPs, both GPUs deliver a similar cost per frame, so the choice becomes a little more difficult. The 1060 still remains the more efficient GPU, boasting better overclocking, while the RX 470 is arguably the more future-proof option, though I really dislike that term. There is the argument that the RX 470 will come out on top down the track due to AMD's apparent superior low-level API performance, though for me personally, the jury is still out on that one. The RX 470 also has more VRAM, though how much of an advantage that gives it over the 1060's 3GB buffer is unknown. Nvidia, after all, is extremely efficient with their memory management. So if you, like me, don't own a crystal ball, prefer cold hard facts rather than speculation and guesswork, then the 1060 is the better option. Of course, as we often find with these comparisons, neither team has put forward a poor solution, and both are likely to keep budget gamers more than happy. What do you guys think? Are you surprised by these results? Let me know in the comments. I'm your host Matt as always, and I'll see you guys next time. YouTubers like me depend on your support to continue improving the quality and content of our videos. To support the channel directly, consider becoming a patron to also get access to a heap of cool rewards and exclusive giveaways. Also, don't forget you can check prices and buy the products I looked at in this video through the Amazon links in the video description below. Thank you kindly for supporting me and the Hardware Unboxed channel. It means a lot to me and I really do appreciate it, and in return I'll continue to work as hard as I can to keep producing the content you enjoy.